Aloha, my friends, and welcome to America 2.0. My name is Mark J. Lindquist, American citizen, U.S. Air Force veteran, and proud founder of this movement called America 2.0. What are we doing here? I am trying to lead a movement of thought and a conversation about what America could be in the political realm in the next 250 years. How could we remake? How could we reimagine? How could we update our systems and processes and in the way that we think about American politics? Because right now, the way that we think about American politics is ugly. I mean, when things get political, people hate each other these days. I'm actually on take 2 of this episode because I swore just a second ago when I was trying to start off this video, and I know I can't do that, early on in the YouTube video, otherwise they're gonna, take down my video and throttle back the reach of it. So I'm trying to, temper my language. But let me tell you, when it comes to the realities of American politics and discussions about it today, people swear and say horrible things about their fellow American. Because right now, Republicans and Democrats have led us to a place in our political discussions and political realities in America. They've led us to a place where Americans hate Americans. These Republicans and these Democrats have led us to a place where Republicans believe that Democrats are the source of their problems, and Democrats believe that Republicans are the source of their problems. And the media has eaten it up, and we've built an ecosystem that just is built to keep you on edge. If you don't know or recognize that, if you don't understand that you're consuming of the news and the fact that we have monetized news is just horrifically bad. I really would wonder the people who advocated for, in the 1780s, 1790s, advocated for free speech and freedom of the press and all that. I really wonder what they would think these days about our clickbait headlines and our monetized news system and how they would judge us. Anyway, if you don't realize that those things are keeping you addicted to a skewed, inaccurate, well, maybe accurate, but certainly presented to you in a way that achieves their goal of keeping your eyeballs on their website, in a way that is over sensationalized, in a way that gives you a story angle that keeps you angry. If we don't realize that, if we're not informing people of it, and they're not aware of it on a day-to-day basis, that this whole game is set up so that this is how it's set up. I was doing some reading the other day. I have always subscribed to the belief that Sun Tzu and The Art of War and Machiavelli, and I don't know if Alexis, what is his name? Alexis de Tocqueville in Democracy in America. I don't know if he touched on it or not, but certainly in Clausewitz, Talk About War. Anyway, the recurring theme is a house divided cannot stand. I think that's actually biblical. But if you divide your enemy, if they turn on each other, if you sow confusion in the ranks of your enemy, if they are fighting amongst themselves, then they'll never mount a sufficient defense against you. Think about that for a second. If in war strategy, military strategy, if you can find instances in these playbooks, I guess you'd say, in the war colleges, in the thinking of military strategists, if you can find instances where they say, if you just sow confusion in the ranks of your enemy, they'll never beat you. If you just get them to fight amongst themselves, they'll never be able to defeat you. Now think about that in the context of Republicans and Democrats versus the people. Oh, there we go. Republicans and Democrats versus the people. In the last video, I was just talking about every once in a while, you're going to come across a phrase or a way to say it that really hits home. Republicans and Democrats versus the people. That came from a talk about Sun Tzu and the art of war, and so confusion in the ranks of your enemy, divide them against each other, they'll never mount a defense against you. I'm going to say that one right there. See, that's what this exercise is all about, my friends. That's why it might be exciting for people to watch these videos, is because every once in a while, I'm going to come up with a way to articulate something. And once we do podcasts, and we get it back and forth going, we will come up with a way to articulate things that we never thought of before. And we will find the keepers. Okay, so let's go back to Sun Tzu. Let's go back to the fact that now let's think about Republicans and Democrats versus the people. I am of the opinion that Republicans and Democrats, A, are only concerned about the preservation of their own power. I don't think that's a hard sell. B, I believe that Republicans would rather have Democrats in power than new ideas that came from the people. Whatever that is. I don't know if you want to call it a political party, but Republicans feel more comfortable if Democrats are in power than the people. Right? Because they know how to control Democrats. They know what the game is when Democrats are in power, and vice versa. Democrats feel more secure and would rather have Republicans be voted in every 2 years than the people, us, coming up with something that would replace them. Oh, neither one of them want anything other than each other to win. Have you ever thought about it like that? That if it is the people versus these political parties, these institutions that have crowned themselves king, that have a monopoly on power and decision-making and influence in the federal government, have you ever thought of the fact that these two parties, Republican Party and Democratic Party, would much rather trade power between themselves than for the American people to come up with a better idea? Because that might replace them and they might lose their stranglehold on power. Even if they are not the majority, either one of them, Republicans or Democrats. Sorry, I got to check on my food order here because I am ordering food. I am hungry. Even if they are not the majority, I think right now, right? I mean, Democrats, am I right? Democrats don't hold any of the houses. Republicans, John Thune is in the Senate. What's his nuts is in the House. Nerdy guy with glasses. And Trump is in the White House. Yeah, so Republicans own all three. And the Supreme Court, so 4, really. Anyway, they would rather, Democrats today in 2025, would rather Republicans have control of all 3 chambers. White House, House and Senate, all branches. They would rather that than the people come up with XYZ that would be something better. Have you ever thought about it like that? It is the people, we the people, versus Republicans and Democrats. Because you've heard it said before, I totally agree. Republicans and Democrats are the same old shit. They're the same old garbage wrapped in a different way, right? They are the same old ideas, failed philosophies, failed frameworks of thought, failed decision-making processes, failed systems of governance. And I keep saying, Republicans and Democrats are not inevitable. Okay, I need to come up with a new phrase because even though I believe that is a true phrase and something good, I believe that my intention in this video is to come up with something that is better than the phrase Republicans and Democrats are not inevitable. Okay, let's see if we can get there. When it comes to how we think about America 2.0, when it comes to how my generation and younger will shape the way that American people think about politics, I believe that we have enough evidence to make a very good case to the people that if you think about all things political through the lens of Republican and Democrat, or who you voted for the last time, and the positions and the policy positions that they advocate for, if you continue to adhere to partisan thinking, we will never build something better. Is it as simple as that? That the fact that we continue to view politics through the lens of Republican and Democrat, the fact that we continue to think about things in the government and in politics and all things political through the lens of left versus right, liberal versus conservative, the political spectrum, as long as we continue that as our framework of thought, and then choosing where you stand. And let's see, from your perspective, this would be left, correct? And this would be right. If you think that the policy or the position lands over here, well, then this side would be Democrats. And this side would be the Republicans. And then you only have, doesn't matter if this is the center, doesn't matter if you're here, doesn't matter if you're here, you still have to vote Democrats. You know, like as long as we continue that framework of thought, we'll never build anything new. I want a group of people who think like me. Let's not think about things through that lens at all. Let's instead approach the entire problem from a new perspective, not left versus right. And this is not Pollyannish. This is not pie in the sky. This is not some naive vision. Let's come at it with fresh eyes. If your challenge was to come up with a way to think about American politics and self-governance and solution making in an institution in a completely different way, and you couldn't think about it from the lens of left, right, conservative, Democrat, conservative, Republican, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, how would you think about it? I would think about it as, what if you, the citizen, the voter, the person who's interested, what if you challenged yourself to come up with a solution or a policy or a way to present the idea with the goal of 80% of the people in America saying, my God, that is the best way I have heard that topic being talked about ever. I mean, I had an aha moment. I had an epiphany. You helped me look at this issue in a way that I thought I knew the right answer. But the way you explained it, well, of course, that's what we should do. If we got to rewrite the game however we wanted, if we got to reinvent or invent new ideas and new approaches and new policies and start over with this topic, well, of course, your idea, 80% of us would agree. Can you come up with something like that? Why wouldn't you challenge yourself to do that? Would you agree? It would be better in American politics and self-governance, in our system of government in Washington, D.C., it would be better if every elected official in government, to include the 2,000 some, or I don't know, maybe it's thousands and 10,000 some that work in state and local governments. I mean, it's thousands of people. What if every elected official made it their goal that they would work day and night their entire term in office to find the 80% solution? What if that was their goal? That we, the people, would not. Oh, here we go. What if, I'm going to write this down. I think it's going to be good. What if we, the people, held our elected leaders to such a high standard or a different standard that we would not deem them successful unless and until they presented a solution to the problem that 80% of us could agree upon? And if they fall short of that mark, then we would replace them with someone else in society who thinks they might be able to come up with a solution, an idea, a policy, or a position that 80% of us could agree upon. What if that were the new bar that the voting public, that we the people, the citizens, expected of our elected officials? There's nothing that says that we the people must keep our expectations so low of our politicians and of our public servants. There's nothing that says the best we can do is 50 plus 1. What if we were to collectively decide that we must expect more, and anybody who categorizes their political thought in 50-50 terms, me versus you, us versus them, Republican versus Democrat, has now made themselves ineligible for our support because what we expect is 80% solutions. There's something good in there. See, that's what did I do there? I just put, oh, here we go. I just put that down in a voice note. And I think that there's something good in there. We can repackage that and succinctly come up with a way to communicate that in a short, in a reel. You can share it. It can be something that now becomes the new, here we go. We're going to do it again. What is necessary for a movement like this to take off in the world that we live in, which is short attention span, shorts and reels, hooks, intrigue, all this stuff. People that are smarter than that, smarter about that stuff than me, will take these things and put them into that format. But what we must do to reinvent politics in America and to make a better system and a better framework of thought is we must find a way to deliver a new thought about politics that becomes the nation's new framework of thought when discussing or thinking about all things political, when thinking about policies, when thinking about positions, when thinking about legislation, when thinking about laws, when discussing it with their friends, when talking about it with people, when voting about it every 2 years. When we consume news from Washington, when we think about politics, when we think about Washington, D.C., we need to come up with 30 and 45-second and 60-second thoughts that are America 2.0 thoughts, that are new thinking, new language, new approaches to this process of finding solutions for us all. New language that describes government of, by, and for the people in a modern era. New definitions of what a citizen's role is. New processes or procedures or ways of consuming news. New ways to participate in self-governance. New definitions of what it is to be a responsible citizen. What if we could, from here on out, what if we could define being a good citizen by whether you are able to think like an 80-20 citizen. If you are still stuck in 50-50, 50 plus 1, Republican versus Democrat thinking, then you aren't a good citizen, because there is a better way to think. There is a better way to approach politics and thinking about it. And the inferior way is to think about it the way the Republicans and Democrats have wanted us to think about it for my entire life. All right, I got to wrap it up because I got 5 minutes left and my order is going to be here. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. So, how do we summarize today's episode? I think what we did here today, I think will be, again, it's the reason why people might want to watch these and sit and listen to this on their drive to work and as if it were a podcast. Why would you listen to the rambling of one man? Well, because what you're seeing is the process of what ends up making a $25,000 an hour speech. What you're seeing is the creative process that allows me to charge $50,000 for an hour if I'm going to stand on stage and speak to a Fortune 500 company. You're seeing the process right here. It's not live, but it's uncut. You'll notice that I did not edit this. I posted it raw. And what you're seeing is the process of in 21 minutes and 38 seconds. So let's call it 22 minutes, roughly, let's say 125 words a minute. You're seeing 2,750 words being spoken in front of a camera, open, no stress, just freewheeling it. And then every once in a while, a nugget comes out that we can refine into a short or a reel that then circulates the internet and gets so many likes and shares, and it becomes the new way of thinking. Because this morning I was wearing a Van Down by the River Chris Farley motivational speaker shirt because I'm a motivational speaker. And think about it. The motivational speaker bit from Saturday Night Live and Chris Farley became so popular that an entire generation, my generation, if you were to say Van Down by the River, 80% of the people know what you're talking about. Maybe 90%. And that was one skit on Saturday Night Live before the internet and YouTube, right? So if something as silly and as trivial and as comedic and inconsequential as that can become something that everybody understands immediately by saying Van Down by the River, by saying those 5 words, then why wouldn't we be able to articulate a new way of thinking about politics in America in the next 250 years? Thoughts that we, the people, would bring and present to the people on the internet, where all of a sudden the way we think becomes the new framework of thought that we bring into America 2.0. What if it was 80-20 thinking? What if it was 80-20 voter? What if it was bring an 80% solution to the table? What if it was I expect 80% solutions? Those 5 words. What if we were able to put that into the ecosystem of the internet? And all of a sudden, everybody from this generation then understood what you were talking about when you said Van Down by the River, when you said, I expect an 80% solution. What if that became our new thought? You cannot tell me that with the tools that are available, that is not possible to do. And so that's what we are seeking to do here, is to come up with so many good and new ways of approaching politics and the frameworks of thought that we bring to the topic of self-governance, that all of a sudden those good and intelligent ways to think about politics becomes the way we all think about it. Do you see where I'm going here? And what you're seeing in these episodes is possibly the next 5-word phrase that becomes part of how an entire generation of Americans thinks about politics. It's called America 2.0. And my food is outside in 3 minutes. I gotta go. Enjoy your lunch. Have a great day. Mark J. Lindquist here signing off from America 2.0.